Hey everyone, welcome to Chapter 1. What is organizational behavior? I am Professor McKinney, your instructor for this course. And I just wanted to take a couple minutes to kind of give you a chapter overview. There's a lot more stuff in the chapter that I'm not covering specifically, so you do have to read that on your own. But this is just kind of like a brief summary of some of the key points. So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the next couple minutes and I'm going to talk about what organizational behavior is, or OB. I'm going to also talk about why it's important, especially within the business realm. And then I'm going to kind of relate it to how that, you know, affects your future career and how you can use that when you're working. Yeah, let's just dive into it. So when we talk about organizational behavior, there's a couple different definitions that come to mind, but the one that I have on the screen, I feel like really highlights it. So what it is, word for word, is that it's a field of study that is devoted to understanding, explaining, and ultimately improving the attitudes and behaviors of individuals and groups in organizations. So what does that mean, right? What does the definition mean in real life? uh, Basically is it is studying people, right? Studying people at work, and how can you make them do better? How can you make them, how can you make them happy, so that way their behavior changes and they can become more productive, which in turn helps the organization. So that's what organizational behavior is. If you think about it, it's kind of like taking psychology, sociology, and economics and wrapping it into one big class with a business twist on it, right? So I like to think of it as like business psychology, right? You're thinking about workers and how can you really improve them. What it does is it typically focus on worker attitudes, behaviors, and what kind of structures can you have in place on the organizational level to really. So there's really two main outcomes that we're looking for when we're looking at organizational behavior, right? Two things that we're trying to improve or work on. So the first one is job performance, right? So when you look at this image that I put together with some cool AI tools, I'm very proud of my images that I use in my lectures. But you have a plumber, right? Doing a job, they're fixing a toilet, right? So the first outcome is someone's job performance, right? Are they able to do it well? Are they able to be efficient at it? You're looking at performance. The second thing is we're looking at job commitment, right? So that can be how long is someone going to stick around at an organization, right? Are we providing the type of environment that they want to stay in long term? So when we look at all of the different key areas, there's actually four areas, and we're going to talk about those in the next slide. But everything ultimately boils down to these two main outcomes, and that's looking at employee job performance and someone's organizational commitment. So the chart that's on the left of this screen actually comes directly from your textbook. But what it is it's really kind of looking at the roadmap of organizational behavior, and there's four main areas that we look at. So there's three that kind of go into one, and then another one that just kind of works on it. So the first thing that we look at is we look at the organizational mechanisms, right? So that could be the organizational culture and the organizational structure and how that all works because it's very unique depending on what organization you're at. Then, kind of zooming in from there, we look at group mechanisms, right? So that's your supervisor, right? What kind of leadership styles or behaviors do they have? Um, how much power or negotiation tactics do they have? The team, how do they communicate with each other? And then also, like, what's the characteristics of the team or the diversity of the team? And so that's kind of like the group mechanisms. Then narrowing it down even further, we look at the individual, right, and their characteristics. So that is what is someone's ability to be able to do the job, right? And then what is their personality or their cultural values that they hold as an individual. So we look at those three main things, right? The organizational mechanisms, the group mechanisms, and then the individual characteristics. And then we look at how that all plays into the individual mechanisms, right? So that kind of plays a role in job satisfaction, stress, right? What motivates someone? What kind of ethics or trust does someone look for in a place that they work at? And then what kind of like learning or decision making processes do they have? And so when we look at all four of those areas, ultimately, those four things are what lead to job performance and organizational commitment. When I've worked at companies before, because my background prior to teaching is that I worked in human resources, there were times where, as a HR professional, I'd be pointing out that we need to have happy employees and kind of really focusing on these organizational behavior principles and theories. And executives would be like, "Why does it matter, right? Uh, we can just get rid of them and hire someone new with a new set of skills." But the truth is that organizational behavior really does matter. And you do have a lot of executives in business that realize this. Some not as much, and you kind of have to help point that. But the fact that you're in this class and you're learning about it, it's going to give you kind of like a step forward in the business realm to really kind of give you a competitive advantage. So the reason why organizational behavior matters is because ultimately happy employees do better work. And so when you have happy employees, there's been research that has shown that your revenue growth can triple, have three times as much revenue growth. Your company can also outperform the stock market by a factor of three, which is kind of like a really big jump. And then another thing is that employee turnover is reduced in half, right? If you're not constantly losing your staff and they're sticking around longer, then you don't have to put as much time into training. You have to put time into training for employees, but you're not constantly having to train new people because people are sticking around longer. And there's knowledge that's kept within the organization. So those are kind of like three main reasons why organizational behavior matters. But ultimately, uh, it it helps revenue, right? It makes your employees happy. They perform better, and then you do better in the stock market, right? So that's kind of looking at the business argument for why organizational behavior matters. But I have a video that I'm about to play where I feel like it's explained really well and kind of talks about some of the research behind this. It's only about a 5-minute video, so I'm going to go ahead and play that now.
We survey CEOs, police officers, truck drivers, cooks, engineers. If people are working, we've surveyed them. And what we know in terms of their happiness, workers all want the same things. There's 3 billion working people in the world, and about 40% of them would say they're happy at work. That means about 1.8 billion, or almost 2 billion people, are not happy at work. What does that do, both to those people and the organizations that they work in? Well, let's talk about money. Organizations that have a lot of happy employees have 3 times the revenue growth compared to organizations where that's not true. They outperform the stock market by a factor of 3. And if you look at employee turnover, it's half that of organizations that have a lot of unhappy employees. The miracle thing is you don't have to spend more money to make this happen. It's not about ping pong tables and massages and pet walking. It's not about the perks. It's all about how they're treated by their leaders and by the people that they work with. So, I'd like to share a few ideas that create happy employees. Idea number 1. In organizations where employees are happy, what you find is 2 things are present: trust and respect. Leaders often say, we trust our employees, we empower our employees, and then when an employee needs a laptop, and this is a true example, 15 people have to approve that laptop. So for the employee, all the words are right, but 15 levels of approval for a $1,500 laptop? You've actually spent more money than the laptop on the approval, and the employee feels maybe they're really not trusted. So what can an organization do to have a high level of trust? The first organization that comes to mind is Four Seasons. They have magnificent properties all around the world, and their employees are told, do whatever you think is right when servicing the customer. To hand that trust to your employees, to do whatever they think is right, makes the employees feel great. And this is why they're known for delivering some of the best service in the world. Idea number 2, fairness. The thing that erodes trust in an organization faster than anything else is when employees feel that they're being treated unfairly. Employees want to be treated the same, regardless of their rank or their tenure or their age or their experience or their job category compared to anyone else. When I think about great organizations who get fairness right, the first organization that comes to mind is Salesforce. They found that men and women working in the same job with the same level of proficiency were making different amounts of money. So immediately, they calculated the difference and they invested $3 million to try and balance things out. Idea number 3 is listening. So to be a listener who connects with all types of people, we have to unlearn a few things. We've all been taught about active listening and eye contact, an intense stare, and a compassionate look. That's not listening. Repeating what the person says, that's not listening. Being humble and always hunting and searching for the best idea possible, that's what listening is. And employees can feel whether you're doing that or not. They want to know when they talk to you and share an idea, did you consider it when you made a decision? The one thing that everybody appreciates and wants when they're speaking is to know that what they say matters so much, you might actually change your mind. Otherwise, what's the point of the conversation? We all know the things we need to change, the things that we need to do differently. The way you behave, the way you treat others, the way you respond, the way you support defines the work experience for everyone around you. Changing to be a better person, the world is littered with those failures. But changing because there's something you believe in, some purpose that you have, where you're willing to risk almost everything because it's so important to you. That's the reason to change. If it's not, you should probably find a different place to work.
Hopefully you enjoyed that video and it was able to really kind of give you a different viewpoint as to why organizational behavior matters in the overall grand scheme of everything business. That really wraps it up for just kind of like this brief overview of chapter 1. As I said in the beginning, there's a lot in this chapter that I didn't necessarily touch on. And so it is really important that you do go ahead and read the full chapter in your textbook. So that's the first thing that you need to do, right? Make sure you read chapter 1, What is Organizational Behavior, on your own. In the picture, it shows students doing it together in a park. You don't have to do that. I guess you could if you want to. But yeah, just make sure that you read the chapter in your textbook this week. And then you also want to make sure to complete the online module for this week. And then, as always, if you have any questions regarding this course or the content, or just anything in general, reach out to me. I try to be really friendly. I try to be available for students. You can send me an email. My email is john-mckinney@utc.edu. But you can also send me a text as well. Sometimes that's the fastest way to get a response to me. And my number is 615-775-0247. So I hope that you have a great week this week, and that you're really able to get excited about what you're going to learn in the next couple chapters for the rest of the semester. See you next week.